There was a bit of a rant that Tavares did on Jalopnik about how unreliable BMW drivetrains really can be. And while there's some truth to that, there's always a flip side to the coin. In my mind, there's always a price to pay for some of that performance. And now it's sort of like marrying a supermodel. Not every day is reliable and blissful. Sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes it throws you off. But often it is an experience nonetheless. And there's risks as well as rewards in being married to a supermodel, not unlike the commitment that you have when you purchase an M car, or any other BMW for that matter. Let's walk down that list of the top 5. Number 1 is the car right behind me, is the BMW E60 M5 equipped with the S85 motor. Now, if it was just an engine problem, then we could probably chalk that up and kind of keep on moving. But the reality is the E60 M5 has other issues related to it as well. Let's walk through some of those issues. Some of them being, of course, the actual engine itself. The S85 V10 motor eats and has a severe appetite and devours rod bearings from at least 60, 70, 80,000 miles. It is just sort of that warning zone. You want to take care of that. Idle actuators, throttle actuators, SMG pumps, differentials, and the lot. A lot of different issues you can find yourself with an E60 M5, and unfortunately it is not short of problems. And this always makes a top list for one of the most unreliable BMWs of all time. The second one on my list is another fan favorite, and it's the N54 engine, often found in cars like the 335, the 535, likely the 135. Any of those 35 series in the mid-2000s were equipped with the N54 motor before they went into a single turbo. This N54 was the dual turbo system. There was a multitude of problems. Coolant leaks, boost leaks, fuel leaks from the injectors, high pressure pumps gone, turbochargers went, wastegates, leaks from the valve cover gaskets, Vanos problems. This car was plagued with issues. That doesn't change the fact that it's still a relatively good performance bargain in the BMW world today. Hence, the car is still very popular in a lot of the tuner circles. The third one on my list happens to be the E92 M3. Now, while there's a lot of forums where people really love the cars and find minimal issues, or minimal issues that they care to report on, the fact of the matter is that car was very, very closely based on the S85 V10 motor that you would find in the E60 M5. And the problem with that car is, obviously, as I mentioned before, actuator issues, Vanos problems, and more specifically, we had the rod bearing problems. The rod bearing issues were exactly the same in the M3 as they were in the M5. So that problem was consistent through and through. It doesn't change the fact that this is arguably one of the best driver's cars that BMW has ever produced. And I understand why people really love them and defend them in a lot of ways. But the reality is they are not short of their own problems. The fourth thing is the M3 E46 M3. That happens to be the early 2000 models. That's the 3.2 liter straight six engine, high revving motor that was equipped in the M3 before they switched to the illustrious V8. It is a great car to drive and has a lot of great attributes, but there was problems there too, like Vanos issues. We had a lot of electrical issues like sunroof problems that were coming off the rails. You had window problems, HVAC control problems, and some of the big ones, of course, rod bearings, again, as well, is consistent with a lot of the M cars. But a big one is the subframe issues that you had to get reinforced because the car essentially started to fall apart. And topping out my list on the top 5 most unreliable BMWs happens to go with the E70 35D X5. That has a multitude of issues, from turbochargers, EGR valves, DPF filters plugging off. You also have, if you operate the car in very cold temperatures, you can experience a high reductant pressure issue, whereas your DEF fluid can actually freeze up and cause you problems, spitting out codes and the like. This car also has rear airbag problems. Those are almost always typical issues that you'll find that they'll start losing air and the car starts to sag in the rear end. It also has the dynamic stability control systems on the front end that start to leak, start to fail slowly, become a problem as well. The core engine is good, the core transmission is good, but it's all the other little ancillaries around that car create a multitude of issues. And so in summary, that caps off the top 5. You have to ask yourself the question, do you want a high-performing car that is designed to run at 95% of its design tolerances? It runs hard, it runs strong, and it is extremely fun to drive. But the trade-off is there's reliability issues. There's great parts that go into these cars, but they cost a lot of money. And of course, these cars aren't lacking in breakdown issues. Or the other side of the coin is you buy a car like a Toyota Corolla. It will never let you down. The problem is you slowly wean away the horsepower over years. The car starts to leave billowing smoke from the exhaust, killing insects in its wake, and you basically essentially have a car that drops 40% of its horsepower before it finally decides to give up the ghost. I don't know about you, but I still think the BMWs, where you know at least if the car's running, that it's running really well. So hope that helps everybody. Top 5 cars in the BMW world with some of the most significant reliability issues to date. Thanks again, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.